Hello everyone and welcome to my craft room. Thanks for joining me, and thank you to everyone who purchased this month's Fun Fold Sentiment Only card kit. These are the 3 cards we're doing together this month being February 2022. So 3 cards there with varying different folds, and each of them featuring a different bundle or product from the current January to June 2022 mini catalogue. So we have what we call here a double column card, which is obviously with the 2 columns there. That's how it gets its name. We've got a centerfold card here, which is pretty simple but quite nice. And this one is what we call a bay window card. And if you set it up properly with that little tab under the sentiment box there, you can see why that's called a bay window, because it just has that sort of little jutting out part that bay windows have. So yeah, a bit architectural with our columns and our bay windows this month. So let's get started. I'll pop all 3 cards into the same video. So if you just work your way through, probably best to watch the video before you get started, so you know you're not going to plow on and make errors. We might start with the double column card first. It's gone a bit squashed, but that one there. So this one here, and this one features the symbols of fortune paper on smoky slate card base. So what you have in your kit, and I've got 2 cards in my kit, so hopefully I won't get too confused. What you have in your kit is a 11 3/4 inch card base that's 4 1/8 wide, and it's been scored. It's probably easier to take it from both ends. It's been scored at 1/2 inch, 1 1/2, 2 1/2, and 3 1/2. So if you take half and then another 1 1 1, and then turn it around and do the same at the other end, you'll get the scoring that we need for this card. Okay, so the first thing we probably need to do is grab our glue, and this is probably the trickiest part of this card, is to get these little columns to match up right. That's not too bad. So basically, with the scores, your columns are going to sit like that, or roughly like that, so a square, something like that. So what we need to do is grab our glue, or I'd actually suggest glue, because it's got a little bit of wriggle room, because when we test fold this, we want it to match up. That glue's just about had it. Okay, so we'll bring that around to form our cube or our column. And as you can see, we sort of roughly make it square so that the sides might get a little bit of glue where you don't want it there, so just have a wipe ready. So we just pop that so that that looks roughly square. When you look down at there, we've got some right angles happening, and then you can just sample fold it and then firm it down. And then when you firm it down, the glue will stick to the right place. So you can fold it both ways and make sure it folds flat, and then your glue will stick in the right place. Now you might get a bit where you've sort of misjudged the fold, and I'll just grab a wet wipe or something like that and take the excess glue off. So we've got that bun there, and we'll do exactly the same on the other side. You'll pop some glue down the fold, curl it round so that the flap is in contact with the back of the card. Firm that down so it's roughly square, and then fold it flat so it goes into the right natural place. And there again, we have our 2 columns just like that. So as I say, probably a good thing to use our glue if you've got it, the Tombow glue, because it'll let you have that final bit of adjustment to get your 2 columns perfectly square, just like that. Okay, so not much else to this one. Once you've got that sorted, you should have, I'll bring all my bits out. You've got 2 pieces of the the symbols of fortune cardstock that are for the front columns, just like that. So they are 7/8 of an inch wide and about 4 inches long. And then you've got a wider one. I'll bring that out as well, and that should fit pretty much perfectly on the inside there. So that's basically what we're going to add now. So one on one side. I don't think this paper has a particular direction to follow, so I wouldn't worry too much about what's up and what's down. But you might, if you were using a different paper, you might want to be careful about that. This one here. Didn't want to stay in the right spot. There we are. So we've got our two columns decorated. And so now we'll pop the centre one in. May have to get some new glue. And pop him in there. So all those pieces of designer series paper are the same length. So you make sure that they sort of, if you can, make sure that they've got the same distance top and bottom so they line up. Lovely. Okay, really, really nice. I like that paper. It's got its gold sentiments, gold embossing there, gold highlights. Okay, so what else you've got in your kit? You should have a piece of design basic white, which is cut for the back. I might pop that on now since I've got it out of its packet. So that's just for, you could stamp another sentiment on it, or you could stamp a flower or something. It's just for your personal message. Obviously there's nowhere else on the card to write as such, so that can go straight on the back. Same sort of border all the way around. It's roughly straight. Okay, and we'll flip back over to the front. Now in your pack as well, you've got a embossed, this is embossed with the Tasteful Textiles embossing folder. So you've got another piece of smoky slate and a non-embossed or a plain piece as well. So the plain piece is, got that microphone a bit close, the plain piece sits just across the top, and that keeps your two columns so that they move together like that, so they fold flat sort of one way or the other. So we've got that one, the embossed one. We'll just pop some glue on the back, whichever way is the back, and put that on the, swap my glue out. Pop the, first of all, mount or glue this one to the plain one. So this one is 7/8 of an inch wide, and the plain one is an inch wide. So just a very small border around the edge, just like that. If you can see, grey against grey makes it a bit tricky. And then the two ends of our strip are going to sit on the front facing surfaces of our columns. So we just need a bit of glue on that end and a bit of glue on that end, just so that it fits. So what I would do is line that up probably about 1/2 inch from the bottom, maybe a wee bit less. Line that up there, line it up there, and then fold it flat so that they straight and they fit, so that it, sample fold it so that it folds nice and flat. There we are. So there we are, we have our little bridge across our columns there, and it will fold flat for the envelope either way. Okay, pretty so far. Okay, I'm going to make it even better. Oh, I haven't got a stamp set here. I don't know what sentiment I'm going to use. Okay, so speaking of sentiments, you've got a little white sentiment box there, and these are in the encircled with beauty die set. I haven't weeded that, that's a bit slack. So maybe homework is to weed your die cuts. Okay, I might leave the little ones in there. And then you've got your white one as well. Now here you can choose whichever sentiment you like. Probably something obviously smaller that can fit into that little sentiment box there. I haven't actually got one out. Let's see what I've got lying around, and if there's anything that's going to be small enough for it, still in the other room. So let's have a look. What have we got? What have we got here? I've got, these are from my video this morning. What about the Love You? No, that's too big. May have to die cut these later. Yeah, I don't think I've got one small enough here. There's some lovely ones in the celebration freebie, the sweet sentiments, I think it's called. It's really nice, some nice little ones there. But yeah, at this stage you probably will stamp your sentiment there. I would just use black. That would be nice, quite nice, embossed in gold if you've got gold embossing powder. Yeah, I'll stamp mine later. So that would be just in that little white embossing, white circle. So then once you've stamped your sentiment, I'm going to need sentiments for all these. I probably should pop and have a look. Pop your sentiment box into the middle of your the larger smoky slate sentiment box circle, like that, and then both of them into the middle of your, between your two columns there. Okay, there we are. Last two things to do is to add our pretty little butterflies. So you should have a large butterfly and a small butterfly. So there'll be something like this. There's two sorts of butterflies that I've used. So your small butterfly, just pop some glue down the middle of his body and pop him on the left-hand side. You can put them really wherever you want. A tip here is don't go over that left-hand edge. So line the edge of his wings up with the left-hand edge of your card. And I'll show you why in a moment, because when we fold it flat, we need to be able to get that into an envelope, so you don't want it to be too long. So once it's folded flat, this is going to fit just into an envelope quite nicely. You don't really want overhangs there. They're quite different matter with this larger butterfly, because when we fold it over, he actually gets captured inside the fold, so his wings don't overlap. So you can, in the open position, you can overlap him a wee bit. So just have a little bit of a play, experiment with the card open and closed as to the best position for that one. But you can, as I say, make his wings overlap the edge a wee bit. Because when it's closed, as I say, he's okay. He's inside the fold and will fit inside the envelope. There we are. Okay, so assuming that I had already stamped that, which I haven't, that is our column fold card. Really nice, quite unusual, and quite lovely with those symbols of fortune paper. Okay, so that's card number one. We'll pop that one aside. So there we are. That's mine. One there that's been stamped with the Hello Sunshine from one of the stamp sets. A nice little dainty, what's the word? Sentiment. Okay, so I'll pop that aside. That's my second kit there. Okay, so let's do our bay window card next. I think, I don't know if it's my favourite of the class this month, but it's definitely a lovely card. So here you have a Fresh Freesia card base. Again, it's 4 1/8 inch long, wide, and it's 11 inches long, so it's been cut down a wee bit. Now the scores, it's a bit hard to tell. The scores are at half. So on whichever side you choose to be the front. I may score that again because it hasn't really scored very deeply for this example. It must have been underneath. I'll score them again and I can show you what the scores are. So the scores are, trying to get my trimmer in here. That's better. The scores are at 1/2 inch, so right at the very end, half an inch, make sure it's not my cutting blade, that would be a disaster, half an inch, and then at 2.5 inches, no, 2 inches, so another inch and a half further on, so that's at 2 inches, and then another inch and a half makes it 3.5 inches, and then another inch and a half along makes it at 5 inches. And then the score for the middle of the card, because it's an 11-inch cardstock, is at 5.5. So that should fold a lot easier now. So there we are. So there, that one goes up. So there is our bay window shape there. So don't worry too much about all that. I will pop the details, as I say, into a link for you to follow, so you can see what those scores are. Okay, so apart from that, in your kit, you also have some designer series paper. You have 2 pieces of this beautiful. Now you might there are 2 possibles you've got in your kit. You might have this pretty one from the and I've got to remember what it's from. I don't want it. It's not hand penned. It's, oh gosh, what is it? Oh, Home and Heart. So this pretty one from the Home and Heart paper, or you've got this glorious one from the tulip, the flowering tulip bundle, which is lovely and quite appropriate with the tulips that we're using on the front of this one. So you have 2 1 3/8 inch pieces and 2 that are very skinny. They're only 3/8 of an inch. So obviously, when you're looking at our card here, the very skinny ones will go at the half inch, on that half inch tab at one end, up here between the score line and the end of the card. And the other one, the other skinny one, will go at the very other end of the card. Be careful here, because this paper does have, if you've got the tulip paper, it does have a distinct orientation. So make sure you line them up. I've just realised I've put the one at the other end with the tulips facing downways. Okay, so we've got that. Then your 2 thicker pieces will go on either side of the centre. So one goes here, so between the score marks, leaving the same sort of border. And then this one at the other end. Now this sort of card is wonderful if you have a particular paper, designer series paper, that has sort of like a scene happening, sort of like a what we call a landscape scene, or a sort of a field of flowers or something like that. You can put that across there like that, and it sort of looks like an uninterrupted vista sort of thing going across the front of the card. So if I do another one, I might try and do that with the designer series paper. You've then got a piece of white cardstock, which is also 1 3/8 of an inch wide, and it's going to pop into that middle one. So when you've got all that decorated, you've obviously got paper, paper, cardstock, paper, paper. So the cardstock's in the middle. And this is where we're going to decorate with our tulips here in the centre. Okay, so actually you should have another piece of cardstock. Goodness me. You have another piece of the designer series paper, and that's going to pop on here on the inside. So the hard left side of what is going to be the inside of your card. To make sure I've put that in another kit that I've made. I don't think I have. So that one's going to sit on the back there. And so this is where the sentiment box is going to be. That with the little sentiment that's going to serve as the sort of the foot or the stop for this particular card, so it sits open. And you've also got, we might not bring that in yet. So the very first, we've got that in. So the next thing we need to do is seal here. So the very first, there's your halfway score, and the very first one is a 1/2 inch. So that very tiny gap there. We just want to pop some glue in there, or double-sided tape, or snail, whatever it is, and seal that closed. So that little 1/2 inch there is sealed. So that's very similar to my bookbind cards. If you've seen me do videos with those, we always seal that very first panel together, so that you end up with a slight interruption, a slight delay on where the card opens. So we've got that one there. Okay, so there you are. We've got that. So when you flip that open, might score that down so that it's opens properly from there. You've actually just got a little bit of a same sort of thing as a bookbind card there, where it's sealed. So then we bring in another piece of white cardstock that we have that's been cut to go perfectly in the gap that's remaining. So from where we've glued that spine closed to the designer series paper on the right hand edge. So you've got another piece of white there, and that's obviously for your sentiment and your writing, your personal message just there. Okay, so that's what you've got there. Right, now where do we go from here? Okay, we might make our tulips now. So in your kit you'll find 5 quite confusing, or possibly quite confusing, pop that aside, pieces of designer series paper that have been cut in some very random looking shapes. Now if you've seen me use this die set before, you'll know how to pop these together, but we'll go through it now anyway. So you should have 5 pieces of, this is the Simply Marvelous Celebration freebie, which has some lovely, obviously given by the name, it has some lovely marble effects, and it makes the tulip petals look a lot more natural. So if you look very closely at the pieces that you've got, they're obviously got some lovely embossing for the petals of the tulip, but they've actually got some straight lines embossed on there. And if you fold them in at the straight lines, you actually create the petals, the little cup, the little trumpet of the tulip there. So you've got this one, which sort of looks, it's got a big centre and then 2 sides there, so they go in on each other, just like that. Then you've got one that looks like just a V. He slips down into the middle of that one. And then one of these little single ones slips down into there. So this one's got three parts to him, three petals that need to fit together. So we've done that. The other one is sort of like it's a bit of a W type shape. Turn it around so you might be easier with the darker side, so like a W type shape. And this one folds in the middle, so that there, those 2 petals fold in and over, and that gives us this particular shape here. And then this little one that we've got left over, he fits down into there. So there we have our little tulip as well. They're all in various stages of being open or closed. So we'll just glue them together. So I've got that one there, pop him in there. And this one. Line both of those up with the bottom, and then those 2 little bits cover over the top like that. So I'm just going to pop a little bit of glue on there and on there. Okay, so that's our first one. If you like the darker, you might want to fold it around the other way so you get the darker marble showing to the outside. So this little guy, same thing. We've got our inside petals. Pop that in there. And some glue on there and there, just a wee bit, and fold it over. And then we have our second tulip. Okay. So we've got two tulips all made up. You should also have two stems, two flowers need two stems. Well, you might have, if you've only got, sorry, I think you might only have one stem. Now I think about it, I think it's, yeah, it's all right. I made some of these kits a while ago, so I'm not quite sure. One stem that we're going to use, we're going to cut in half and use, because it's going to be, the end of it's going to be hidden behind the leaves, so we can get away with just one stem. So we'll cut that in half, sort of like that, and then we can position our tulips. So I'm going to pop the tulips onto dimensionals. So just on either side of the, probably get away with little ones if you've got the mini dimensionals. And pop them up there. So we have one sort of high up and looking off to the left hand side. And then our other little one on the, oh, don't stick there, that's not where I want you. Sort of off to the right hand side. Now make sure you leave room for them on your front, because your front isn't that large. So make sure you put your dimensionals so that it doesn't overlap too much with the fold, because we just want them to be on that front little piece so it doesn't go over too far. And I'm going to have to move that or replace it with a little, I'm going to pop that dimensional on first, just so I don't go over the edge. And then I can bring the tulip in and know that I haven't overlapped too far. As I say, there's our two tulips there. And we'll bring our stems in. Put one stem there, one stem there, and the other one like that. And then you've got two leaves as well. I know you've got two leaves. So you're using half a stem and to get the right ones. Got a little one, a little leaf, a little leaf and a big leaf. That's what you've got. So we're going to pop those on there and sort of cover over that slightly untidy stem endings. So just pop a wee bit of glue on the back of your stems. Try and make them follow the natural line of the flower. So obviously stems come out the sort of natural direction of the flower. Looks a bit unnatural otherwise. Peel under there. There we are. So as you can see, half a stem each is plenty. There we go. We've got our two stems there. We'll bring in our leaves. Start with our big one. And bring in our smaller one. moved a bit. There we are. So our leaves sort of help cover over that sort of slightly messy end there, but that looks quite nice. There we go. Okay, so there's our daisies, our tulips on the front of our bay window card, just like that. There we are. Okay, so we've got just a couple more things to do. Oh, I'm going to need the stamp set. Oh, bear with me, I'm going to go and get the stamp set. I can't believe I came out without it. Hopefully you managed to fast forward through that little gap. As I say, best to watch my videos before you start. Okay, so we've got our card mostly done there. So what we're going to use is the Happy Mother's Day here. So this is a Mother's Day card we're making here. And I'm going to use, because we're using all the purples, I'm going to use my gorgeous grape ink on the little stitched rectangle that you have in your kit. So a little stitched rectangle there. My gorgeous grape ink. Just test that I've got that on straight. Not really. Just using my grid paper to line up that stamp straight. I'll test it again. Yep, that's better. Okay, so you've got a stitched rectangle there from the stitched rectangle dies. I'm just going to pop my Happy Mother's Day in the middle there in my gorgeous grape ink. And then I'm going to pop that across the middle of our daisy. Tulip, I mean. And again, I'm going to use some dimensionals. So as you can see, it's longer than the central column, the central panel. So our dimensionals are going to have to stick within that little space there. Again, might find it easier to actually add them to the card to the card itself first, sort of roughly where you want that to be. I might pop one in the middle too because I'm using little ones, mini ones. Just in a row there, and then bring our sentiment in and position it over the top. There we are. So that's when the card is open, you can see the sentiment sort of overlaps the front. It might be better to see it that way. That way there, you can see you wouldn't want to put a dimensional on either end because it would get caught. It would get stuck to the rest of the card. So we're mostly finished now. We've got another stitched sentiment label there, which is this one from the Stitched So Sweetly. I'm going to use the Just Thinking of You Today, which is this one here in the centre. So we're obviously thinking of our mothers on Mother's Day or someone special. Doesn't have to be our mother. Just Thinking of You Today. So I'm going to pop that on a block. Again, I'm going to use my gorgeous grape ink, and I'm going to, normally you'd put this sentiment box long ways like that. I'm actually going to rotate it 90 degrees and pop the sentiment on it that way. Pop it in the center there. There we are. And again, I'm going to grab some dimensionals. what have I got? Edge pieces. I might use my edge pieces. Don't like to waste them. So this is the part that's going to catch, act as a sort of a catch for our bay window, so it sits open like that. So when you put your dimensionals on, you only want to put them on the right hand half of the sentiment box. So these end bits are perfect because I'm just going to position them all the way down the center of the sentiment box. So I'll just cut what I think is a fair thing, pop that over, and then I'm, as I say, going to pop it just down the center of the sentiment box. It's a little bit long, just like that. So it's just down the center there, the center line, and then because that's, I'll pop one on the right hand side, just that leftovers, but we're keeping this part here completely free so that the little tab from our card front can slip under there and keep the card open. So again, pop that. So that's going to go on the back, just on that little piece of designer series paper, just like that. So as center as I can, top and bottom, straightish. There we are. So when, again, we just slip that little tab under there and our box, our bay window stays open. I might score that one. It's a little bit firmer, and those two. Here we are. So that's our bay window card. There we are, our happy Mother's Day. Oh, bling, you will have some bling in your pack, and it will be the now what colour is that? The Fresh Freesia gems from the In Colour gems. I haven't got any of those left because I gave them all away. So I'm going to use my favourite iridescent rhinestones, and you should have 3. So just pop those around as you like them. There we are. Okay, so that's that one done. So that's our bay window card with our tulips. So you can see with the original that I designed, this one is with cardstock. So those tulips look a bit blockier, a bit all one colour, but I really do love the effect you get with the Marblicious paper. I was really pleased that I found that way of using that because I was struggling to use it, to be honest. I had so much of it. But anyway, those tulips are really, really lovely and quite effective for this Mother's Day card. So that's card number 2. Pop that away. Okay, the last one I think is one of my favourites for the month. I have so many favourites. Obviously, I'm not particularly choosy, but this one is a real favourite. This is the the Daffodil Afternoon paper, which is a celebration freebie. Should still be available if you place an order for $90 Australian plus postage. You can choose this beautiful paper as your celebration freebie through to the 16th of March. But anyway, this is just a plain old Centerfold card. The base colour is Bumblebee, so it's a nice sort of mustard yellow. So you've got a card base in Bumblebee. You've then also got a sort of little mini card that's also in Bumblebee, and that's been cut to fit just in the middle there. And you've got a couple of panels of black. So the Bumblebee will be layered with the black and with the designer series paper. Not much die cutting or anything with this one. It's a fairly simple card. You've got a couple of layers of white. Of course, you've got our beautiful designer series paper, which I adore. A couple of little bits of mystery that will come obvious what they are for very shortly. And a sentiment matte in black and in white. And then a couple more bits of designer series paper there. And there's some bling as well, but I'll get that out in a minute. Okay, so all these bits and bobs, as I say, I will put the measurements in the post so you can go in and see what you need, how you need to cut these for yourself. Okay, so our layer of Bumblebee is then going to have black cardstock over the top of it. So the gap all the way around will be a little bit bigger than normal. It's like 1/4 of an inch difference, so it's an 1/8 of an inch all the way around. Excuse me. Just like that. Then what we're going to do is bring in our 2 pieces of the sort of Bumblebee coloured designer series paper, the plainer of the 2, and they're just going to sit either end. So not much of a, so back to our normal sort of 1/16 of an inch border, top, bottom and side. Okay, and then the same at the other end. Now, if you weren't too worried about using cardstock, you could use a plain, sort of a whole piece of cardstock rather than, you know, just trimming the ends off one. That centre is going to be covered by our little mini card, of course. But if you, as I say, if you've got lots of cardstock, you could just use a single piece to cover that whole layer there. Okay, so that's that there. Then what we have is, what have I got here? Okay, so now we're going to look at our little mini card. I'll pop this aside for a moment. We'll bring in our little mini card. You have that there. That's 3 1/8 inch wide and 8 1/4 long, and it's scored in the middle. So we've got another layer of black that we're going to pop on there. Just this sort of mimics the front, the larger card base. Then you've got, actually we've got another piece that's exactly the same size that's for the inside. So we might as well add that now, get all our black out of the way. So that's for the inside there. Okay. Then we've got our wonderful designer series paper. This is our Daffodil Afternoon designer series paper. That's going to sit on the front of our little mini card. So that fits just nicely on the inside of that black. Again, a little bit smaller border this time. And then we've got a white one that's going to go on the inside for your personal message. And this is where our little mystery mini piece of paper comes in. This is a little end bit here. This is, you guys know how much I hate wasting paper. So that's, this bit is just basically the bit that I've cut off the end of this front piece of designer series paper just to make it fit. So it's sort of come off the end to reduce it so it fits in the front. But I didn't want to waste it, so I've given it to you to pop on the inside there. You can choose to do it or not if you like. It's up to you, but I just didn't want to waste it. There we are. I think it just brings the pattern from the outside to the inside, which is quite nice. Extra glue. Okay, so we can bring our little mini card back into the main card base, and it's going to sit, as you can see, pretty much smack bang in the middle of those 2 thinner layers of cardstock, of designer series paper. Just fit right in the middle there. You might have a wee bit of black showing, but it won't be very much. And if you move it around a bit, it might well disappear completely anyway. So that's our little centre fold there. Okay, nearly finished. So our sentiment box and our black layer are there. That's going to sit across the centre. I didn't want to cover up too much of our beautiful daffodils, but I think if it sits across the middle there, it's not too bad. I'm going to use again from the Flowering Tulip stamp set, No One Deserves a Happier Birthday Than You. I think that's a sweet sentiment. So we'll pop that on a block. I'm going to use just my normal old black ink. If I can find it, here it is. So just onto the white. And as straight as you can. So whatever, if you haven't got the tulips, obviously you can use whatever sentiment you like there. I think the sort of larger sentiment with more to them actually looks quite good. It doesn't look too swamped by the huge white layer. I'm going to pop this onto the black. Then I'm going to bring in some dimensionals for that, for the next step. Pop that onto the black. Here we are. And then some dimensionals for the back. Little sentiment covers everywhere, absolutely everywhere. Okay, so we'll bring that one in, as I say, position it so the two edges of the two black, the black of the sentiment box and the black of the little mini card line up with each other. It's sort of straight right across the front there. Okay, and again, you've got some bling. I think actually this time you do have the iridescent gems, so I'm going to stick with those and use those again. And you just pop those around. And this one, as I say, I think it's my favourite, but it's done. There we are. Okay, pops up there. Awesome. Okay, so that's our three cards for this month's class, our February class. Hope you enjoyed those. The 47 minutes, that's pretty standard. Okay, so we have our daffodil pop-up, Centerfold. Got our Symbols of Fortune Designer Series paper column fold, and we have our bay window with our cute little marble tulips there. Okay, so three fun folds there, and I hope you actually like them. I'd love to see if you swap out the paper or the images or the dies or something like that. I'd love to see what you come up with over on my Facebook page, but there they are. So thanks again for having doing this month's class. If you're watching this video on replay and you'd like to get involved in my fun fold classes, I do them every month. I have hopefully 3 different folds. Sometimes it's a bit tricky to come up with new ideas, but there's always new folds to explore. If you'd like to send me an email to the email on the YouTube channel, then I'd love to get you involved in my classes. Unfortunately, Australian customers only. Since we're not allowed to sell outside our markets. But anyway, that's our 3 cards for the month. Hope you enjoyed those, and I will see you all next time.